Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Hello? You play to win the game.
I mean, listen, we're talking about.
And welcome to this edition of Claws to the Wall. I'm your host, Jordan Young, and we have a special guest today in the house, Coach Daniel Miller from San Marcos High School, the head coach of the boys basketball team. So we got him today. Can't wait to chop it up with him for a little bit. We also have Franchesca joining and our boy Gage Sutton. And we also got Tech State basketball and a little bit of NBA talk. But before we get all of that, let's get to the main man, the reason why we all got up this morning, our guy, Dan Miller. So, Gage, start us off.
Well, first off, Coach Miller, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. Got a very historic-looking team there at San Marcos High School, and we'll get to all that. But first, let's ask you about this new district realignment. It was just announced earlier this week that you guys would be now in a district with Clemens, Steele, Judson. What are kind of your thoughts on the district realignment and I guess the difference in competition between the district you're in right now and the one you guys are going into?
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with all of you. The realignment, we didn't know which way it would go. Even just talking to Coach Walsh, maybe we had a little bit of a feeling that we would go south with these teams in the San Antonio area, but there was still a chance we would stay in Austin. I didn't really have a preference personally for our basketball program because you're going to see the Austin schools in the playoffs anyway early, or you're going to see the San Antonio. But as far as the district goes, one of the first thing that just kind of stood out to me is just a smaller district. I've been doing this a while. When I was back at high school at Seven Lakes, we never had a 6-team district. So that's something just new to me, and then getting non-district games is now we have to play a lot of non-district games, which is fine, but we're scheduling. Like, that's what I'm busy doing right now is we have to schedule 11 non-district games and then 10 district games. But as far as the competition, it's going to be a really good district. Everyone knows Converse Judson is good, but those other teams are all good basketball programs. Now, right down the road, we have New Braunfels. So there's a little rivalry, right built in with that game in San Marcos. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think our district competition next year will be fabulous.
So, Coach, you were talking a little bit about deciding what kind of games you'll pick for the out-of-district schedule. Do you think you'll kind of reach into the district that you're playing in right now for maybe some potentially preseason opponents to get y'all ready?
Yeah, I already told the guys, all the head coaches in our district, as soon as that announcement was made, I texted everyone in our district and just said, hey, anybody who's looking to play. So I know we're definitely going to play Westlake next year. Robert and I we just got to lock in a date. And I was kind of ahead of it a little bit just with some scheduling. I think we have half of, we have 5 of our 11 slots filled. And then Westlake, once we get a date, we'll have 6. So we only need 5 more games, but we will definitely play some Austin teams in the non-district. I know we locked in a game with Rouse already, Stony Point, Hutto, so we have some good competition lined up.
Well, Coach, I'm not sure if you're familiar, or I was a San Antonio student. I went to O'Connor, so I'm pretty familiar with Judson and Steele. And just looking at this district, I can tell it's a lot deeper than the district you guys are in right now. You guys are very top-heavy with Westlake and Lake Travis, but with this one, it seems like the competitiveness of the whole district is going to be a little more up there. What can you say about that?
Yeah, that's the first thing that stood out to me. And then even talking to some of our football coaches, the same thing, that there's not one game that you look at that, that's just going to be an easy night, right? Every team has a chance to make the playoffs out of all 6. And it's probably, I'm guessing, for football also. But in basketball, all the teams are good. So like you said, very deep, which I love because it's always about getting ready for the playoffs. So sometimes if you play those games in non-district or in your district, maybe against teams that aren't that good, it doesn't sharpen you up, right? Iron sharpens iron. So when you're playing against potential playoff games every night in district, it should have you playoff ready. So I'm excited about that district.
Coach, in previous interviews, you've talked about wanting your team to have championship standards. Can you just tell us a little bit about what those championship standards are? And do you think your team has bought in enough to those championship standards you're trying to teach them heading into this tough home stretch of the regular season and with the postseason on the horizon?
Yeah, championship standards are something that we want to be daily, 365. It's an on the court, off the court mentality. It's sometimes hard to do the tough thing. It's easy to do, the things that don't make you better. So what we talk about is just arriving early, putting your hard hat on, getting to work, not making excuses. That's a big one of our championship standards. Putting the team first, being unselfish. And then, of course, the academic side of things, keeping yourself eligible, being a good person, all those things go into it. And then as far as the winning part goes, those championship standards need to carry over so that everything we do in our practice is competitive. Everything we do is getting us ready for those games, whether it's situations, scrimmaging, drills, skill work, shooting, going hard with those championship standards. So, yeah, I think the guys have bought into it. I think they're doing a good job. I know that, we have 25 wins, which I think is the most we've had around here in a while in San Marcos. And hopefully we have several, more wins to go, right? But it's more than just the winning. And I think from where we are now, we just got done with our practice compared to where it was maybe in November. They're definitely buying in and doing a good job with those.
Coach, you have a great record of success when it comes to coaching, in your past. I'm a little curious on if you can tell us a little bit about the bonding activities you have with your players and different teams and how that leads you to dominate on the court.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a relationship driven guy. I think that it's so important that your team is connected, that they know who you are as their coach. They know that they can trust you. And so I always try to, wherever I've coached, as far as being a head coach, I was a head coach in the Houston area at Seven Lakes for 10 years, and then at the college level for 7 years at Laterno, and now here at San Marcos. I always believe that just connecting your team, having that connectivity is so important. So we try to do things off the court as much as we can. Last week, we worked with the Special Olympics team, maybe going to the middle school games. The week before, we went to the middle school game, a lot of our guys. And whether it's even just before practices, just doing things where we're chopping it up, we're talking, getting to know each other. And trust each other, building those relationships within a team. So that's all important. And it's not, I tell you guys, it's like family, right? It's not always going to be perfect. It's not all rose petals. There's going to be times where you want to punch your brother, right? But when it comes to having each other's back, that's so important. So when I talk about, sometimes I say foxhole guy, like if you're in a foxhole and you could pick two people, to be in your foxhole and you're fighting in a war or something, who are you going to pick? And I tell the great teams would be like, it's hard choices. Like I want all my guys in the foxhole and I want them to want to pick Coach Miller to be put in their foxhole because they know that I have their back. So that team bonding is so important.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach, kind of going with, this importance on building teammate chemistry. I think you and Coach Walsh have been working together to kind of build, the whole athletic program kind of from the ground up. There haven't been a lot of winning seasons. I believe the last time the San Marcos High School basketball team won 20 games was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Just kind of, you guys kind of hit the lottery with Malik and Caden. Those guys are obviously really great players. We talk about them every week, but can you tell us a little bit about the younger players that are kind of developing and are going to be coming up and really embodying what the new culture is going to be?
Right. Well, we start with our varsity team. We have only 2 seniors, and those 2 seniors are really important. We have Caleb Williams, and he starts for us. And then Jordan Mendoza, he doesn't play, much in the games, but just those guys, I talked to those guys right away. and just said, as seniors, it's important that they set the tone, even though they're only going to be in this program for one more year. And they've done a great job of buying into the new way we do things in our championship standards. But then as far as our youth goes, one thing is we're a very young team. Like we dropped that game against Del Valley the other day, and that was tough because, we could have had a chance to clinch the playoffs that night. I think we did with our next win against Bowie on Saturday. But sometimes, I was driving home, I was thinking about, I was like, those guys are young still. We had at times on the court, we had 3 juniors and a sophomore and a freshman, down the stretch, of a game. And getting that experience in those type of games is invaluable. And so, we have some young guys on our team, a freshman, Cash, good. And then we have Zai, who's a sophomore. And then the rest of them are juniors. And, we're just trying to make sure they understand. Yes, next year, a lot of people say, oh, you're going to have this great team next year. But we have a great team this year, so we don't want to be looking too far ahead. And then developing behind those guys, because Malik and Caden are so good. And a lot of times people are saying, like, what will they be when those guys leave? And that's where those championship standards come in. We maybe will never have 2 as talented guys as those 2 guys. But we will have good players that we'll build good team basketball with. So by the time we get there in 2 years, we just know how to win, and good programs you expect to win.
Coach, I know you coach championship standards and really hone in on the small things when it comes to playing basketball. But we all know when the playoffs comes, the intensity does rise just a little bit. And I know that you do echo that sentiment in all your practices, but the playoffs come with a different energy. So how is that message coming across? How are you trying to get that message to your players that though district is really tough, but the playoffs do call for an extra sort of oomph for you to get those wins and try to make a run for the title?
Yeah, if you just start getting ready for the playoffs, the first practice for your playoffs, you're not going to have a long run. So we've been doing it, really all year of just making sure that we're competitive in practice. Now today we did a defensive drill where you had to get 3 in a row stops, and we had our top group out there, and they were in there a long time. Like they would get 2 stops, someone would hit a shot, and we all reset. And they were getting a little frustrated. And we had to talk about it after. We talked about that situation. We said, that's playoff basketball. Like you have to lock in. Every defensive possession matters. Every time you're on defense, we need 5 guys with multiple efforts. And in that practice, when they were giving up that score, what I saw is some of the heads hanging and not getting those do cuddles, not lifting each other up like they normally do when it got a little adversity. And I talked to them about that. So that's going to be playoffs on the road. We have to get a stop. We need to remember this right here and what we didn't do. And then so tomorrow when we're back at it in practice in the morning, I got a feeling those guys will get those do cuddles, lift those heads back up, slap the floor and yell defense, because that's what you need in the playoffs, because defense travels. So in the playoffs, defense travels. So if we want to win in the playoffs, yes, we can score. I think we lead the Austin area in 6A scoring at 71 points a game, but we have to get stops. And like you said, in the playoffs, that intensity level is going to be there. So we have to have it and have more than the other team.
And go, Brendan.
Oh, well, Coach, just wanted to say, first off, thank you again for joining us and talking a little bit about the team and the realignment. We got some really exciting stuff coming in the future. But when you said playoffs, it kind of got me thinking about our team, the Packers, and how they couldn't finish. They're going to have a pretty hectic off season coming up, but kind of wanted to get your take on it. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he'll be coming back, or do you think Green Bay will let him walk?
Man, being a Green Bay Packer fan, I know a lot of people around here know that I am. I'm from up there, and from a city right outside of Green Bay, about 20 minutes. And so, my parents are actually here visiting this week. So I think my dad and I talked about it over and over, and it's kind of a torn one with Aaron, because if we bring Aaron back, I'm good with that. Even though we haven't got it done in the playoffs, I just think, he's due in the playoffs. But if we trade him and go with Jay Love, I'm good too, because we should get 3 first-round picks for Aaron. and we can build a young team around Rashawn Gary and all these young defensive players. So I'm good either way, but I'm still heartbroken that San Francisco came into Lambeau Field and yet another heartbreak. I know the Cowboys fans feel the same way about San Francisco coming into Dallas. So I guess Cowboys fans and Packers fans, we can just be a little unhappy together. But man, I thought this was our year.
Hey, hold on, Coach. You don't want to put Packers fans in the same boat as Cowboys fans. I do not associate. Not associate.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Fans definitely don't complain as much as Cowboys fans.
Yeah, real quick though about Cowboys fans, I will say, they're diehards like us, but they, like what I joke with my Cowboys friends. I'm like, 1 minute you're telling me Dak Prescott's like going to be the GOAT and is the best, and then the next day they want to run him out of town or whatever. So I was like, Cowboys fans are just up and down. There's no doubt about it.
I agree. I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. I stayed quiet for a minute. I was like, should I be offended? But yeah, we definitely have our ups and downs.
Yeah. See, we all do. Unless you're the last team standing. I love football so much. It's like I love basketball. But, man, it's always heartbreak. Every year, I hate to say this, but it's like the Packers and the Cowboys fans can kind of relate to this since they had their good teams with Emmett and Aikman. It's like, just how are we going to get heartbroken this year? I hate to say it, but as a Packers fan, I'm just like, okay, this is all great, but how are we going to get heartbroken this year? Hopefully it'll change.
I was trying my best not to get my hopes up too high because of all the disappointment we've seen the last couple of years, Coach. But
yeah,
it was hard not to with this team because we both knew it was kind of the last dance. This was going to be the last chance with these guys. But
and who would have thought special teams would have played such a role? Got punt blocked. That was their touchdown. Our defense finally came to play, got a kick block. It was frustrating. I'm not going to lie, but hopefully the Rattlers have better playoff results when we get in there for basketball.
Absolutely. I think everyone at KTSW can say the same, Coach. We're rooting for that team. And real quickly, before we move on and close this interview out, quick announcement for Coach. The Packers just signed the special teams coordinator for the Raiders.
Oh, they did? Good.
Yes, they did.
Good. See, who would have thought that'd be such a big deal? But for us, that is because we have the worst special teams for the last 15 years. So that's good. Good sign.
Coach,
that makes me happy.
Before we get you out of here, what are your Super Bowl? Who's your Super Bowl pick? Who do you got?
Man, it's going to be, I think, a good game. But, it'd be cool for Stafford. I think a lot of people would like to see him get a Super Bowl. He had to pay his dues with Detroit Lions, so that's cool. But, man, those young kids in Cincinnati are fun. I love that receiver they have. I love Joe Cool. I'm kind of rooting for Cincinnati just because I think no one picked them in the beginning of the year, and they're going to be good for a while, I think. So I'm going to go Cincinnati, and just Joe's going to get that ring, I think.
Well, Coach, I think there's a lot of similarities between your team and the Bengals. I think you guys will be good. Y'all are a young, up-and-coming team. But thank you for joining us this morning. It was a pleasure. Please join us again anytime.
Will do. You guys do a great job with all the stuff you do, so we appreciate the coverage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.